Peace, family. Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen and your intergalactic interpreter. I was going to do a little pick a pile, but I definitely felt like there were messages that needed to be shared before I get into that. So we're just going to do a little cosmic tea. If you're watching this when I record it, we are still in the full moon energy. The full moon in Sagittarius was yesterday. Sagittarius is the archer. It is a sign of higher knowledge, of wisdom, higher realms of consciousness. So I do feel a lot of people are waking up to their higher self. And you're waking up to your higher self because you have been in a process of elevation. You've been elevating. I hope that is helpful. I don't know. Anyway, you've been elevating and you have been on a journey to remove all of this lower vibrational energy that has been keeping you tethered in the lower dimensions. And this reminds me of the movie Us by Jordan Peele. Because I believe that the people in that film were like tethered to like a feral version of themselves. And what's really interesting about that movie is, so what happens is the girl is like, this is a spoiler warning and I'm seeing 111 on the timer. The girl is walking on the beach and she finds her tether. She like runs into the tethered version of herself. And they end up switching places, and the tethered version of herself becomes like socialized. Oh, what is this? Sorry, there's like a fiber on my lip. The tethered version of herself becomes socialized, whereas 144 on the timer, whereas the original version of herself who had grown up, who'd been born in the normal world, grown up in the normal world, becomes this monster. And the reason why she's a monster essentially is because basically she has to live in that tethered world. She has to live in that terrible experience, you know what I mean? And so it's really not her fault that she becomes like this, but she has to do what she has to do to survive. And because of this, like, she's the only one in the tethered world who can talk. And because of that, she rallies all of the other tethered ones. And 234 on the timer. She rallies all of the tethered ones. And I also saw 231. And she has them revolt against the other side, the folks in the other version of the world, right? And I just think like that says so much about how our environments impact who we become. I'm sure that there's a deeper esoteric meaning that I'm not thinking of right now because I only saw that movie once when it came out. But certainly I think that we have to have more grace for our traumatized version of ourselves. One thing that I say as a reader is that it's not just because of what I'm hearing. What is wanting to come out is it's not just because of trauma, but it's also because of karma. But what I wanted to say is that, like, you know, the version of yourself that is meeting the world is actually the deeply traumatized version. And that is being blocked from the true version of yourself by a wall of shadow. And shadow includes your programming, your indoctrination. Like, we are programmed into shadow behavior. We're programmed into being shady people. You know what I mean? Like, in this paradigm, in this social structure, like the social constructs that we operate upon, like we are trained to be shady, self-centered, self-serving, and that's not natural to human beings, because no indigenous society was ever like that, because it's stupid, it doesn't make any sense, it's counterproductive and counterintuitive. Okay, like, we're social animals, we're primates, and that's the fact of the matter. Primates come in packs, and each member of the pack serves a certain purpose. So those members of the pack who have decided that, you know, it's just them and they only have to worry about themselves and nobody else matters, like, ultimately they are, one, mentally ill, like something's wrong with them, because that's not natural. It's actually, as I said, counterintuitive and counterproductive. It is a destructive way to think as a primate. And two, other than something being wrong with them, they're going to inevitably fail. And a big part of the problem is, in this society, we are rewarded for being, you know, on that psychopathic spectrum. The more you tend towards psychopathy to a certain extent, to a certain point, the more you're rewarded. And I would even say it's not even to a certain extent, because the reality is that billionaires, most of them are psychopaths. Trillionaires are psychopaths. People forget, like, you know, the people who are the powers and principalities, the powers that be, the people who rule the government and these nations, you know, yeah, the people in parliament, the people in the Senate and Congress, you know, if you have monarchs and stuff like that, a lot of those people are psychopaths. It takes a psychopath to put into place and continue perpetuating the kinds of structures that exist within the paradigm of the colony. You understand what I mean? So I know that a lot of, like, spirituality pages will be like, oh, I don't get political. Well, you're not actually a spiritualist. You're not a healer. I would not trust somebody who says and acts like that, because they have no integrity. So the reality of the situation is, like, in order to perpetuate these kinds of harms that create undue amounts of poverty, that destroy our planet, you have to be psychopathic. Okay, and these plutocrats are going down. We know this because Pluto is in 1 degree of, right now it's retrograde, and I believe, yes, it's at 1 degree of Aquarius. Let me just double check. It's at 2 degrees exactly of Aquarius, so it will be retrograding to 1 degree of Aquarius, and then it will be moving into Capricorn. And while it's in Aquarius, it's going to be catalyzing in real time in the material plane because of, okay, so what's happening is, like, we are experiencing a consciousness shift where everything, like, the veil is being pulled back, like, rapidly, like explosively, like suddenly, because that is what Aquarius is about. It's about sudden change. It's an air sign. It has to do with consciousness as well. And because we have this Sagittarius full moon right now, this is about, like being accessing higher realms of consciousness. Like I said, some of us are, like, downloading and internalizing our higher self in the here and now in ways that we were not capable of doing before, because the cosmic potion wasn't ready for it yet. I get the Lovers from my Crystal Visions deck. I do feel like we are coming into union, but as I was talking about, like, the version of ourselves that is walking around in the world masking, aka masquerading, like playing the role that we've been prescribed by society, that version of ourselves, that's the sick version. That's the traumatized version. That's the version that is actually deeply, deeply unwell. And when you hit a wall, that wall might feel like hitting rock bottom, like, and it may externally seem like everything is great, but you simply cannot continue on living the way that you were living. And usually when that happens, that's because you are You are about to access an awakening, an unveiling of consciousness that is going to bring you into a higher level of consciousness and remove from you or disabuse you of these past ideations that you were married to, that you built your life upon, these false notions that were not solid ground to build a stable foundation upon. Those are being removed, and you are being presented an opportunity to build upon a solid foundation of truth and integrity. So that's what happens when we go through a dark night of the soul. We get pushed back into those spaces so that we can reevaluate with this new perspective that we are being graced with. When you ask for change in your life, when you ask for, when you ask to be leveled up, when you ask for manifestations that are of a higher frequency than you, this is the price that you have to pay. And this is why people are like, oh my God, sacrifice, sacrifice. You are the sacrifice. You have to be self-sacrificing. It's sacrificing your ego. We're talking about ego death here, so that you're no longer one by yourself living in isolation, because that's what isolation breeds. One second. You're no longer one living in isolation, but you become, you come into divine union with what is for you. You come more into union with yourself. And because you come more into union with yourself, once you have balanced those energies, once you have integrated and also purged, and you are operating at the optimal frequency that you were calling in, or that you were destined to receive, you will then be able to move forward in a way that that is aligned, divinely aligned with whatever it is your manifestation is, or your destiny. Okay, we're talking about destiny, so I must talk about the nodes. The North Node right now is in Aries. Today, for the chart that I pulled, why don't we actually go to, you know what? No, midnight's fine. It's in the 3rd house, and that means that the South Node is in Libra in the 9th house. This really is so much about reclaiming our power and our sovereignty. What have we not been choosing to do? How have we been choosing to show up as a lower consciousness version of ourselves, a lower power version of ourselves? And I don't want to put any blame on anybody, because the truth of the matter is, if you were operating from a lower consciousness, that means that you probably didn't know any better. And if it's because you didn't know any better, maybe you had some idea that something was off, but you didn't know any better, or you didn't see a different way to do things. The circumstances were not aligned for you to do things differently. And this is why we're talking about that traumatized version of the self, because the reality is, like, this version of the self, has been beaten down so that they stay in line. That version of yourself is ego driven. And a lot of people misunderstand the idea of ego. The ego it's the opposite of your death drive. It is your life drive. It is the drive to be, yes, I would say the drive is just to keep you alive. You know what I mean? And so it thinks that it's protecting you. So it drives you to do things to a certain degree in this culture that you are initiated into, because indoctrination is a form of initiation. It drives you to do certain things. It drives you to be a certain way, to be a certain person, because it thinks it's protecting you, and it thinks that it's reaching its goals. But the ego is the most underdeveloped part of our brain. That's the basal ganglia. They call that the reptilian brain. And that's that cold-blooded part of you. That's that do anything that I have to do survival mode part of you. That's the black and white thinking. That is binary thinking. That is two-dimensional consciousness. That's linear. Okay? And we are human beings. We are 1441 on the timer, and also now 1444, so that's 444 on the screen as well. This is to say, so this is for my chosen ones, okay? And with this, I do feel like some of you are coming into like divine union with your sovereign domain, kingdom spouse type stuff. But it's, as I said, it's not just about the romantic relationship. And that's why for those of you who identify as having been in separation, a big part of your problem that was keeping you in that separation is because you weren't fixing the aspects of your life that needed attention and energy, that needed to be addressed, because you were so focused on the romantic aspect of things. And that means that you're codependent and you're addicted to this false idea of romance and togetherness, community, what have you. You have an unhealthy reliance on external relationships, essentially. And that's something that you had to be broken out of. So it may have been that you had everything taken away from you so that you could finally focus on what needed to be focused on, instead of looking for this external validation. You may be somebody who's incredibly attractive, a real catch, but you simply could not find anybody. Like, you couldn't give it away if you tried, is what I've been hearing that a lot lately. Like, I couldn't give it away if I tried, even though you know that you have something that anybody in their right mind would want. And the reason is because you're focusing on the wrong things. And Spirit, the Most High, has moved you into a place of hermit mode so that you can become the star. But when we look at the star card, I'm going to take the star card from the Cosmic Tarot deck and show y'all that, because I think that is probably the best way that I can describe this. When you have to go into hermit mode so that you can go inward and you can walk into the dark, walk into the parts of yourself that nobody else can go. Okay, so this is perfect. You see here, okay. You see here's this star, and here is this channel of information, this channel of light. Light is information. Light is actually the cosmic messenger. It literally is a particle and a wave. It carries that particle. The wave carries the particle, which is information. That is why light is called the cosmic messenger. Okay? So really you can think about light as Mercury. It does have to do with information. This is why I've said Aries is not the divine masculine. Mercury is the divine masculine, and the divine feminine, I would say, is very much, I do feel like she's kind of Virgo in a way, but we have this, we have the lily pad here. This is symbolically important. And this, to me, I believe the lily pad is associated with Sarasvati, and this is definitely about transformation. It's definitely about being a divine being in a low vibrational space, getting it up out the mud. So the elves in Tolkien's Legendarium, that is the universe in which The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings exist. They are starlight beings that fall onto the planet Earth, and they are in the mud, and they wake up in the mud. And they just start singing, and they sing, and that's how they find one another. And they don't start using words for, I think, if it's not maybe like 600 years, it might be like 6,000 years. They don't use words. Lemurian timelines. If you resonate with that, you might resonate with Lemurian timelines. But this star, this is giving us this divine consciousness. It is traveling down to earth. It is hitting the water. What does water represent? Consciousness. Consciousness, I would say vibes as well, atmosphere. So what are the vibrations? What are the particles being carried through? You know, they're like, space is empty. No, it's not. What is it being carried through? There's this thing in science. I think it's in biology. I'm blanking on the terminology, but it's like, it has to do with like genetics. But when they have like a petri dish, and it's not a liquid per se. It's kind of like a liquid. It's like a gel, essentially, that they. I'm really blanking on this language, but like you can transmit like electrodes and things like this. Like I said, electromagnetic universe, but that's essentially what the water is. And this is why our brain is mainly made up of water. Our bodies are mainly made up of water. It's electrical impulses carrying information through the water in our body, blood, to different parts of our body. That's what the nervous system does, to send information about what's going on in another part of the body so that the brain can then do something about it. So this is coming back to what I was talking about with the basal ganglia. But yes, it's in the subconscious, this information. And because she is the vessel dipping her toe into the water, she is absorbing this information and channeling it through her. She has this starlight consciousness because of her emotional, subconscious, feminine connection to the universe at large. So this isn't a very oracular card, but I wanted to show this card, this specific version of this card, because of that light. So and let me show you the Hermit. I might want to show the Hermit. This is not the right deck. I might want to show the Hermit in the traditional Smith-Rider-Waite deck, but and this Two of Cups is really standing out to me. Look at this. Like, you cannot make this stuff up, right? What is this? The same sort of star, which is, it's a Merkaba field, essentially. It's a Merkaba field, the same sort of star. And this time it's touching Earth. Okay, this time it's touching Earth, the mountains, which are still divine feminine forms. This has to do with dragons, okay? And we have the moon here also. And the moon has to do with emotional communication systems, our embodied communication systems, which work in tandem with the mind. I said that in the reading that I did yesterday. And it is illuminating this lantern. The Hermit is alone, studying this lantern, studying this light, developing a higher form of consciousness. The star is a celestial being. The star is what keeps us alive. People don't seem to understand that the sun is a star. And without the sun, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't exist. The planet Earth is a satellite to the sun. Okay? One thing I want to note, this is not a full moon. This is not a full moon. Is it waxing? I mean, you could perceive of it as waxing. You could perceive of it as waning, but I'm perceiving of it as waxing. This is the development of awareness, conscious awareness. And look, we have this flower down here, but it's not the same. It's not the lotus. And we also have a bird. Did I see? There's a little bird down here. I don't know what kind of bird that is, though. And we have these, what appear to me as cherry blossoms. 2, 5, 8. 8 stars there. So look at these two cards and how similar the imagery is, because they are working in tandem. We had to go inward and just focus on ourselves. Just focusing on ourselves in order to understand this higher level of wisdom and consciousness that has been coming in. We had to go into hermit mode. We had to go into solitude to process this information that we've been downloading. And you know what? It's actually not hitting the water. It's hitting the mountain. But the water is communicating it to this woman who is in touch with the subconscious, the unseen, which is 95% of our mind. And because of this flow of information, you know, in both of them, the moon is connected to that star. So it is through our subconscious, through our emotional body, that we are receiving this information. And we're pouring back, we're having a conversation with, yes, this is about celestial consciousness. We're having a conversation with the universe, with the cosmos. So I definitely feel like this is oracular. This is the oracular divine. I'm hearing divine beings. You may identify as an 𝗪𝗱. You might identify as an earth angel. But what I'm also picking up here, this is why we hit a wall, because we've been ignoring our emotions for far too long. If you've experienced narcissistic abuse, oftentimes the community around a narcissist will gaslight the victim. We're seeing this with Cassie and Diddy. And I think that that's a perfect example, because the truth is coming to light. All of the things that people have been saying about him, and people just chose to not believe it because they didn't want to, because it was an inconvenient truth. All of those things are now being proven to be true. And not only is he being brought to task and held accountable, but so is everybody who was on his side, that protected him, that supported him, that turned a blind eye, because that is a form of protection, that being complicit. And we get 10 of Wands at the bottom of the deck in reverse. This is the end of this embattled energy. This is the end of a karmic cycle that, you know, they really wanted to break you, but they were incapable of doing so. They threw everything that they could at you from a very young age. But because we have Saturn here, this is also karmic energy. So if you are, if you're a chosen one of your lineage, this means that you may have been born with no karma, and you came to Earth and you took on the karma of your bloodline, of your community, of the of your culture. And that was what you had to transmute. If you had karma, then you also had to transmute that. And some people put their karma onto you. And trust and believe, they're getting that shit back tenfold. They're not getting away with that. There's no way, Spirit's saying there's no way that they're going to get away with what they did. And it was all so that they could keep you out of union with your full self, so that you wouldn't be at your full power, because your full power would bring down a paradigm. Whether this is the microcosm of your personal life or the macrocosm of society at large, or the cosmos at large, because this is spiritual warfare, baby. This is not just, what's happening right here. This is bigger than that. But think about it in your own personal life. This could be corruption happening in a school that you bring down as an activist. Why do you think that they're constantly trying to oppress student activists? You know what I mean? Like at the university that I graduated from, people were activating around and organizing around making the tuition free. And I had a friend who was a part of this student organization that did this work, the primary student organization that did this work, and they would stage actions. And because of this, she became an enemy of the school. She'd gotten kicked off of the school property at different times, all kinds of stuff. And, this is they'll find ways to disempower a person like this. Sometimes they might cancel your scholarships, or they might, you might apply to be a part of a special program and they might not allow you to be part of that program, so that they can bully you into and disempower you to the point where you give up and you just leave. That's what they're hoping is going to happen. 1, 2, 3 on the clock. 1, 1, 2, 3, actually. That's what they're hoping would happen. But it didn't happen, because it's not about you coming into union with a romantic partner. It's not even about you coming into union with the best version of your life. You can only do that when you are in union with all of the fragmented parts of yourself that have been disenfranchised. So disabusing yourself of any low vibrational, as I can't say it enough, disempowering ideologies and ideations about yourself. You may have been listening to self-concept subliminals. If not, I would encourage you to. You may be in trauma healing programs. You may be in trauma healing therapy. You might be in recovery. You've been on a spiritual journey of leveling up, of alchemizing your pain into prosperity. This is what you have been doing. And so because of that, you have beaten this energy, this version of yourself that was being controlled by these powers and principalities, is free. It's been liberated, because the reality of that situation is they were weaker than you. That's why they had to spin this web of lies, 3, 2, 2, 2, and then 3. Well, it was 3, 2, 2, 1. Then it was 3, 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 2, 2, 3. But it was really the 3, 2, 2, 1 that Spirit wanted to highlight and emphasize. But that's why they had to make you think this about yourself. This is why they had to disenfranchise you, because they wanted you to believe that stuff. And I'm looking at this candle. It says allegedly, you were all of these negative things that they said about you. Allegedly, you were all of these negative things that you were subconsciously made to believe. And they say Shaitan operates through imagery, symbols, which makes sense because it has to do with the material world. So, when we do sigils, everything is iconography, symbology. Iconography is a very important part of my fine art practice as an academic artist. I did go through academia to become an artist, and I went to a liberal arts school to get my BFA. So that is where I studied sociology and theology and human history, to be able to develop the awareness that I have today, like psychology, particularly early childhood psychology. And that's what I use to cobble together cosmic wellness and spiritual abolition, which are the spiritual practices. Well, cosmic wellness is built upon spiritual abolition, and these are the practices that I am pioneering here in the Aetherium. And I say this to say because in sociology and sociological thought, we say that the first institution of socialization or indoctrination, if you will, is the family. Then the next is media. So it is actually incredibly important to understand that the institution in the industry of media are programmers. They do control our concept of self, yes, and how we relate to others. Because many of us learn, as I said, it is considered by social scientists to be the second bastion of indoctrination and socialization. That means that that is how you learn to exist in your society. That is where you learn the role that you play. First in your family, then through media, and then education, and then politics. This is the current standing principle for sociological thought. Okay, so it is really important to understand and be mindful of the media that you are taking in. And understand that marketing is, I believe, beyond $1 billion industry. I would hasten to bet, especially globally, trillions of dollars go into marketing. But companies spend millions, if not billions, of dollars a year on marketing, which is hinged upon human psychology. They understand what colors affect you, your human body, in what ways. This is why it's important to understand, whether you like it or not, whether you think that you're different or not, you exist in a primate body as a Homo sapien. So it is important to understand these things. When we make a sigil, it is encoded with a certain type of energy. That's what letters are. One person who speaks English and is literate may see an A and be like, A. But somebody who only speaks Arabic might see an A and not know what the fuck that is. And it's certainly not going to make the sound A. And in fact, someone who's French and is literate will see the letter that English people say is A and say it's A. A, B, C, D, E. You understand? These are all social constructs specific to our societies. And then we live in a global social structure. But none of this is fact. What is fact is your body. That's what's a fact. You can't deny it as much as you'd like to. So instead of pretending to be okay with certain things, to want certain things, why not just tune into your body, like this star card is saying? In order for you to be the star, in order for you to reach your destiny, you need to tune into your body and honor what you feel inside. I mean, Mulan had a whole song about it. You know what I mean? Who is that girl I see staring back at me? When will my reflection show who I am inside? Because she lived her whole life as someone that she wasn't for her family's sake. And she had to go through, like, you know, she had to go to the polar opposite of what femininity was in her culture in order to break through on the other side as a self-sovereign version of herself that garnered the respect of not just her family and her father in particular, but the emperor of her nation to save her people. That is how important going through this alchemization of self process is. If you don't respect yourself, you can best believe that others are going to disrespect you as well. Because a lot of the time, you have to teach people how to treat you. If you show people that you're willing to tolerate disrespect, then they're going to try it. I say this to my clients all the time. There's never going to be a time in your life when people are not trying it. People will always try it. But it's a question of, whether or not you're going to allow it. That's human nature. They're going to try it, of course, because they want to get the easiest. They're going to do the least possible to get the maximal result if they're smart. Doing the least to maximize your wins and your gains is a smart thing to do. But there's an unethical way to do it and an ethical way to do it. A lot of people do it in unethical ways that are disrespectful. You have to be the one who says no. If somebody's lowballing you in terms of like monetary exchange, you have to be the one to say no. You set your price. And if they can't meet your price, then it is what it is. They're not the customer for you. They're not the client for you. But don't self-betray, because that's just going to cause that buildup of shadow that you are going to have to reconcile at some point. Two of Swords in the reverse when I split the deck. And look at this. What is the commonality between these cards? This is the internal process. You are no longer uncertain. You are choosing yourself. And like I said, notice that the moon is full here. This means that you have actually come to the apex of a cycle. You've come to the apex of a cycle. You're full of this conscious awareness. You do know exactly how you feel. You have to process that through your conscious mind and make a decision. And you will know if it's the right decision, if it feels right in your body. If it doesn't feel 4114 on the timer, if it's 11:33 on the clock, if it doesn't feel right in your body, it's not the right decision. But a lot of times, even when we're afraid, even when we're uncomfortable, we know intuitively that it's what we have to do, but we're just afraid to do it. But you have, whoever I'm reading for, you've already bested that, because you get the Lovers. You are in divine union. You are in union with like all of these fragmented parts of yourself and your higher self. You are the confluence point for all of these selves, and you have learned the karmic lessons that you needed to learn, that were preordained. You've learned them. You fell down and you got up. I think it's Donnie McClurkin who sings that song. You fell down and you got up. For a saint is just a sinner who fell down and got up. I've been talking about this in readings for over a month now. Probably like two months, I'd say. So you need to know that like karma is the Sanskrit word for action. So it is about the decisions that you're making, the choices that you're making, what you're choosing to do with your energy. Wands has to do with your causal energy, the energy that you exert, that you put out into the world, that masculine aspect of being, electric aspect of being. You charge this, it's not a culture. What is this called? Electrophoresis, maybe? The gel. Okay. Yeah, so I am thinking of electrophoresis. It's a process that enables the sorting of molecules based on charge, size, or shape. Using an electric field, molecules such as DNA can be made to move through a gel made of agarose or polyacrylamide. The gel has a porous matrix with pores that vary in size depending on the agarose concentration. So this gel is what I'm thinking of, but there's another way that I would say this. maybe in a petri dish. It's agar, which people do eat agar. Agar is what we call it. Gel in a cell. Gel-like substance in a cell. Cytoplasm. Yeah, I would more so talk about cytoplasm. The gel-like substance that fills the inside of a cell is called cytoplasm. It's a thick, watery, jelly-like material that's located between the cell membrane and the nucleus. Cytoplasm is made up of about 70% water, as well as salts and proteins. It contains all membrane-bound cell organelles such as the mitochondria, lysosomes, Golgi body, and endoplasmic reticulum. That's pretty much what I'm thinking of. And that's when you're thinking about the universe, that's what you should be thinking about, is cytoplasm. Don't think about the universe as if it's empty, because that's one, it's just not true. In terms of quantum physics, it's just not true. And two, if you are intending to be a master manifester, an alchemist, then you need to be thinking quantum physically. You cannot be married to three-dimensional consciousness and lower, or else you're not going to be very successful. And certainly you're not going to be able to sustain your manifestations. Okay, so think about the universe as if it is a cell, a living organism, a cell, and it's full of this cytoplasm like gel. We have 5% consciousness of that cytoplasm, but then the rest of that 95%, we don't know. Period. That's how consciousness works. And that's how our conscious interaction with the universe works. So this is why I say that all is mind shit is a scam. On some 3D shit, maybe, but on some quantum physical shit, like, that is a scam. But so, yeah, why was I talking about this? This gel-like substance that you are charging these cells with this frequency, and finding ways to magnify that frequency. And for that reason, then you will attract the things that you are looking to attract. But when you have a whole lot of unhealed trauma, you're not really going to be able to, you're going to attract more of that trauma, not because you're doing anything specifically. Like, yes, you are acting out that trauma. Like, karmically, you will act that out subconsciously because you don't know any better. But once you become trauma informed and develop a consciousness around trauma, especially your own trauma, like, for instance, for myself, I had traumatic memories that I had repressed. I didn't even know that they were there. I didn't even know that, like, when I was abusing substances, I quit drinking very shortly after I came out of the quote unquote closet. It started coming out to my sisters. And I realized, like, over time, then I quit drinking. I realized that I was drinking so that I could hide that specific secret. But as I got sober and I, like, quit, psychedelics and things like this, I got more and more sober, and more memories started to surface. And more parts of who I was that I didn't even remember. And I was subconsciously acting from those parts of me. And I didn't even know that. They were controlling me because that's 95% of who I was. But because I developed conscious awareness of them, and I learned how to heal them, and I worked with people who are trained to heal them, I was able to heal and integrate those parts of me and expunge the shadow, transmuting those timelines. And this is why I say DNA those are the timelines, those strands. If you know anything about string theory, this is kind of like my conception with string theory. Timelines, threads, DNA strands. As I said, I kept acting out and recreating these narratives of trauma that I didn't remember because they were stored in my body and in my subconscious. They were literally stored in my cells. This is like the body keeps the score stuff. You know what I mean? And I have a playlist that's a public playlist, and it's called Science is Cool. I'd recommend checking that playlist out, especially if you are new to these concepts. But yeah, so I was able to heal my subconscious. I was able to heal my consciousness, heal my inner child, and bring that version of myself out. And they were feral when I first started doing this work. They didn't trust me. They operated fully in the shadows. They didn't tell me anything directly. And I've spent the past maybe 4.5, no, it's been about 4 years that I've spent, well, a lot longer, but specifically on this type of work and this dark night of the soul, the past 4 years working with my inner child to gain their trust and to create a safe life for them. And there was a lot that I had to lose, but I kept choosing myself. Every time I came to a crossroads, I kept choosing myself more and more. And it seemed like I was isolating myself as I was cutting myself off from those toxic timelines that were keeping me tethered to sickness, and physically sick as well. Physically sick as well. Because we know that stress causes heart disease. Stress is a killer. It causes cancer. We know this. The mind-body connection is not a joke. This is why healing ourselves, healing our trauma is crucial. And now I get to be in my star energy. And it may feel like, oh, but like, because I'm fully integrated. All of the shadows that were keeping me from being able to shine, gone. And all that's left now is this coalesced star. And it burns so bright that it burns through the shadow in and of itself. Because I'm fully integrated within myself. It's not about being in integration with anyone else. I cannot be a part of an interdependent community if I'm not self-sovereign, because only sovereign beings can be in interdependent community. And that is what we look for when we transcend codependency. Okay? So to me, this is saying, like, if you haven't received the fullness of your glory, is what I'm hearing. If you haven't received the fullness of your glory, you actually have been receiving it. Little by slowly, you've been receiving it. And when Jupiter gets to Gemini, everything is going to start moving light speed. I know people are saying the 6/6 portal. I don't know about that. I'm gonna be real. I don't know them things, but I know that in June, let me see, May, I keep that thing on me. I keep this info on me. Oh my God, tomorrow, oh my God, thank God. This is so amazing. This is the best news. Oh my God, thank God. Jupiter moves into Gemini tomorrow at 11:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pluto is also going to be moving back to 1 degree of Aquarius. Lilith will be moving to 26 degrees of Virgo. And if you're watching this not when I'm filming it, just understand that what this means is that you are about all of that abundance that you have been stockpiling in the unseen. What was understood doesn't need to be said. Keep this shit to yourself. When your wins start like coming to you, keep this shit to yourself. Mum is the word, dead ass. Two cobblers working at a table. Ooh, this is okay. That's because I'm looking at the 25th. Well, it should be on here. Oh, why isn't it? It's about perspective. So right now we're really learning about perspective with Jupiter at 29 degrees of Taurus. Lilith will be moving to 26 degrees Virgo, and this is the third level, individual and mental. A boy with a censer serves the priest near the altar. Practice in the presence of God, the first stage of actual participation in the great ritual of planetary evolution. This is about higher levels of consciousness. I swear to you. I swear to you. And Pluto will be moving back 1 degree to an old Adobe mission in California. The power inherent in all great human works to endure far beyond the worker's lifespans, the concretization of an ideal. So I really want, while Pluto is at 1 degree of Aquarius, and when it moves back into Capricorn, I really want you all to actively stay in your power, sowing the seeds of your sovereignty in all that you do, because this is the foundation that this next cycle is going to be built upon. So understand your intentions for doing things. Set your intentions. I teach my clients in my workshops. I teach you, if you don't know what you would want to manifest 400 years from now, you need to figure that out, because that's going to tell you what your principles are and what your standards need to be. That's going to tell you who you are at your essential core. I have a workbook in my online shop, viedarling.xyz/shop, where you can buy the Saturnalia workbook. I may have another workbook in there too, but I'm working on some more stuff. But I believe I have the Saturnalia workshop or the Great Conjunction workshop in there. But yeah, if you want, I can help you with this. If you book coaching, these are not things that we can do in just one session, but if you buy a coaching package, we can do that. And I now offer Klarna in my shop, so you can pay over the course of four payments. But this is what Spirit wants to communicate, and I just want to get some advice about like practical advice. You've done a really great job. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of whoever this message is for. And you'll notice on the Hermit, he has Jupiter on his stole. He has a lot of, actually, the Om is on his forehead, on the Ajna chakra, the third eye chakra. So this is about balance. His thoughts, before they manifest, go through this process of alchemization and optimization. If alchemization is a word that is like too esoteric for you, think about optimization. We have the Sun, we have Jupiter, and we have Virgo here. And I feel like, yeah, is that Virgo or is that Scorpio? I'm hearing Asclepius. Sorry, y'all. I just want to make sure that this is, to me, it looks like Virgo. It is Virgo. See, I know I'm talking. I've been studying astrology since I was 18. I'm going to look up Asclepius. Greco-Roman god of medicine, son of Apollo, god of healing, truth, and prophecy, who is the sun, and the mortal princess Coronis, which also would have to do with the sun. The centaur Chiron taught him the art of healing. At length, Zeus, Jupiter, afraid that Asclepius might render all men immortal, slew him with a thunderbolt. So that Hermetic symbol of the staff with the wings and the snakes around it, that is like Asclepius's symbol. This is also Mercury. And all of those signs are here, I would say. All of those signs are here. Or also Apollo alone. Imhotep. Or Eshmun. Okay, so it's not Mercury, but it's giving Thoth for sure. But it's not Thoth either. So you might want to look up Asclepius, but this is definitely about healing, and you've mastered this healing. And the thing that I want to communicate is through you living your authentic healed self, you're also communicating that healing to others energetically and giving them 10001 on the timer, giving them the keys to liberating themselves and healing them through the process of liberation. Because remember, Chiron is a key. And that is also in the sign of Aries in the 3rd house right now. But right now, for the time being, for a while, it's going to be in the sign of Aries. And this is to say, like, it is through your actions that you will find healing. Someone that I used to be mutuals with used to say, magic is action. You have to do it. You can't just sit around and think about it like armchair philosophy. You have to actually live it to be it. So 7 of Cups in the indirect position. Don't argue with people right now. Don't try and make others see your point of view or see your side of things. Just communicate your truth and don't take things personally right now, because it really has nothing to do with you. Everybody is in a very karmic space. Some people are still in this 10 of Wands prison of like karmic prison. You're not. So don't even worry about that. Like, let them be. They got to figure out their own stuff on their own. You know what I mean? They might still be in this 2 of Swords energy where they're still at the apex and they are afraid to come down because they're afraid of what they're going to lose. But so they're not able to start a new cycle where they don't have to deal with the things that they lose, because the things that they lose are not things that they wanted or that serve them anyway. And underneath that was the Strength card, because you do need to tap into your inner strength, into your inner sovereignty, into your inner awareness that you are a beloved child of God, an unconditionally loved child of God, as we all are. But I feel like, you know, God chose you special. I will say that much. And we all deserve to live a fulfilling life, okay, and get our needs met. So I want to just take a look at Leo right now, where Fortuna is in the 7th house. Yes, show up as your best, most confident self. Show up as that, like, I'm hearing Flo Milli, I walk around like that bitch. Because I am that. I just spent so much money, it's hard to count. Or I just made so much money, it's hard to count that. I go shopping, I don't look at price tags. You go shopping, you ask where the sale's at, something like that. And it's like, you know, we get the 2 of Wands in reverse. These relationships that were keeping you low vibrational, because I do feel like a lot of you had Jezebel energy around you, betrayal energy, just like black hole succubus energy. And whether these people are like full out and out energy vampires, it's very easy when somebody is an outlier, a supernatural being, you know, a star seed, an earth angel. It's very easy for like spiritual parasites to hide behind their light. And that's what that gilded, that you know, gilded age type shit is. That's what that shaitan thing is. Like, it's that shiny thing. You know what I mean? So like being attracted to something that's shiny on the outside, but it's full of rot. There's an episode of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. But this is something that's actually common. It's a common story, particularly in the Celtic mythos, of the Fae offering, like, don't eat that meal. What am I thinking of? It's a show. It's like they invite, oh yes, I think it was Lilith invited Sabrina and all of her friends to a meal in hell and the food looked amazing, but it was actually rotten. So it's an illusion. Some of you have been put under an illusion. You have a trickster energy. You know who it is, though. You already know who it is. It might be a lot of things, because it could be people, places, institutions. Like, you could go to a place. I mean, places have energy too. You could go to a place. This is why I say, like, understand that going somewhere on vacation and living somewhere are very different things. When I would go to LA, like, to visit, I would have a great time because, you know, I'm planning on spending money already. Like, I'm on vacation, I'm on holiday, or if I go for work or something like that. But when I went to LA to live, it was a whole different story. A whole different story, a whole different experience. And for me, I would love to spend more time in LA, but I don't think that I could live permanently in LA, especially not if I'm not wealthy. But I don't think that I would want to live there permanently anyway. It's just not like the land and I, like, it's not my place. It's not my place. Though I love Laguna Beach and I love the Mojave Desert and I love the land. It's just a very different lifestyle than what is for me. But I know that about myself. And so, you know, when and I talked about fairies, like, if someone's putting a glamour on you, it's very important to understand. Like, you have the power of discernment to be able to see through any glamours that people are putting on you. And you, because you have gone through this consciousness upgrade and you can see through it. So you really need to, like, change the game up and stop acting like you don't know what you do know to be true. Okay. I do get Four of Wands on the bottom of the deck, but I feel like that is not super important. This World card is about liberation. Four of Wands comes out in the direct position. You know, call on your ancestors, angels, and spirit guides at this time. I would really recommend you to be praying, to be meditating. Keep the faith. Like, keep the faith. You have bested if you're experiencing challenges, if you're just really, like, fed up, you're already on the other side of whatever it is that you've been going through. You're still just walking out of that space. You know what I mean? Like, when a storm passes over, you get a few drops and it builds up into, like, a downpour, and then it starts to lighten up until it's no longer a storm anymore. So that's the kind of energy that we're in. You have been in the, like, the storm has passed over is what I'm hearing. Brighter days ahead is what I'm hearing. Six of Pentacles in the reverse. Holding pattern. It's yeah, let go of expectations of what this should look like and how it's going to come to you. Because I do feel like maybe you've been watching a lot of readings that have been telling you, like, kind of what to expect. And it may have been, like, hyping you up and kind of stressing you out. But trust that, like, you are divested from that programmed consciousness, whatever that is. For some of you, I mean, actually for everyone, technically it's MK Ultra, but, like, for some people very specifically, like, I personally know people who went through, like, MMC programming, which is military mind control programming. I personally know people who went through that, and yeah, I personally know people who escaped cults. And whatever programming you were under, religious indoctrination, you know, those kinds of things as well, cult ideologies. It could even be something like, you know, finding some, like, fringe social group online and being a part of that. I just shuffled so many times and the Hierophant came out in the reverse again. Queen of Wands, you are the master of your domain. Their magic is falling away. They cannot hurt you anymore. They can't control you to hurt you anymore. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Look at this storm as having really watered the F out of your garden. And also whatever was ripped out was meant to be, because it ripped out structures that were not healthy and not helpful. It ripped out weeds. You know what I mean? Go on with your bad self, but like go on with this consciousness that you have developed. Be that, like, I walk around like that bitch because I am that. Okay? Whatever you have to do to have yourself in that energy, 10 of Swords in reverse, you're not going to be disappointed. Your spirit team is not going to disappoint you. They're not going to let you down. As much opposition as you might come up against, laugh that shit off, because those people, places, things are being exposed to you so that you can know that it's not for you. People's rejection is God's protection. They liked you when you were when you were not in your power. They don't want you to be in your power because they know that they would never be able to touch you if you were in your full power. Word to the star. But you are. That's who you are now. So that's what I have for you. Like I said, I'm so proud of you, because walking through a dark night of the soul, the alchemical process of transmutation of the self is not easy. Like, it is so hard. It is so challenging. And if you are a starseed and you came here with a light working mission, I'm so grateful for the work that you've done for the collective. I love you all truly and deeply. 11101 on the timer, so 1111 on the timer. I love you all truly and deeply, and it is an honor to read for you. Book a reading with me, book a session with me, book a coaching package with me. You know where to find me, and see you on the flip side. Happy hunting.